Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GH, best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. First of all, I'm a fan of the name. So, good job.
Well, thank you.
Before you got known for the what the fuck roadmap, you were building and leading agencies yourself. So what pulled you into guiding other founders on growth instead of keep on growing and building your agencies? How did you get into this?
Yeah, so I exited my last agency and stayed and had to stay with the acquirer for a year. And after that, I didn't love not being the CEO. As a matter of fact, I hated it. So, I left, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so I did some interim VP of e-commerce stuff, did a bunch of consulting to startups, and it was all fine. But then a friend of mine, someone I've known for a really long time, like 20 years, said that she was having some issues with her agency and wondering if she could get my advice. And so I started giving her advice, and all of a sudden, the sun came out and birds started to sing and there were bunnies everywhere and rainbows. And I thought, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that was in 2018. And I haven't looked back since. Oh. I can't hear you.
Thanks for whispering. You can't hear me. Tim, that's the choices of the direct. I was on mute, my bad. So I like this. I'm a huge fan of Alex Hormozi, and I don't remember who founded ClickFunnels. I think it's something Brunson. Anyways, he told Alex, "Hey, you shouldn't be running gyms. You should be teaching people how to, fill out gyms." And it's like the famous guiding others to do what you've done in the past, and you find your real purpose. And this is where the real leverage is. Is that kind of what you went through as well when you started helping that client?
It engaged more parts of me. It engaged different parts of me. I'm a dad. I've got 5 kids, so
right.
I've spent my life, my adult life, guiding them. My first job out of college, I was a high school teacher. So, really, these are teaching is something that I have always loved. And I did plenty of it inside of my agencies, but it was so much more interesting to me to coach somebody whom I had lived their experience. And so I had intense empathy and depth and really understood not just the mechanics of how you grow an agency, because that's what YouTube is for. There's mechanics everywhere, but it's about taking your personhood, your emotional landscape, your financial landscape, your experiential landscape, and applying it, to the best impact. And that's very different than just tactical coaching, and that's what really excites me about what I do, because tactics are boring and transient.
I get you. I mean, we should all be spending as much time as we can figuring out what we like, and once we find it out, spending as much time as possible doing it.
Exactly.
So that does make a lot of sense. So, I mean, obviously it's in the name and kind of the introduction here, but can you tell us a bit more about the problem that you're solving right now since 2018? And who is it that you're helping specifically?
Yeah, so, and I've been through quite an evolution through this. First, I I was focused on more profit, more revenue, more happy. And I still am, actually. And by the way, those are not, that's not a formula. Those are 3 different variables to optimize for. And then I was focused really on building agencies better, because I've realized that lots of people try to build agencies that are terrible to work for. And finally, about 2 years ago, I realized the thing that I said most often when I was an agency leader was like, what the fuck? Because I just could not believe that somebody would do that. Somebody would say this thing, that nobody would take this action. And then I thought, what the fuck? That's what I ought to be talking about. That. And then it dawned on me that WTF turns into, wow, that's fantastic, or what's the fix, or which thing first. And then I thought, oh, there you go. That's we're going to turn the what the fuck into an action stream, or an adjustment to the way you're thinking. What's the fascination? There's so much that deserves to come out of that expression of frustration. And so many people don't give that frustration enough sense, because they feel like they should have already figured it out. They're thinking, I run an agency of 25 people. I should know how to do this. And nobody does. And more importantly, nobody knows how to do it so it's effective for you. And so the entire thing that I'm trying to build is a highly emotionally attuned, effective way to grow a business that feels right to you. Because so many people get trapped in the world of SOPs and of departmental meetings and level 10 meetings, and they hate it. And that's because they're building somebody else's business. And so I want to help my clients create their business.
So you help people launch agencies, basically,
so
or run their agencies better?
To build them better. So the early stage agency, from getting from no clients to maybe $20,000 a month. Okay. There's no magic there. It's just, you have to smash your face against the wall until you make a dent. Yeah. It's making another call. It's sending another email. It's saying, it's on a Friday night saying I need to get this account in shape for the weekend, or whatever, right? And there's not a significant way, in my opinion, to shorten the learning cycle there, because the only way to learn how to do those things is to do them. Now, you can get help and advice to, figure out, I tried to do this and it didn't work. Why did that happen? But nobody can really tell you what to do. You kind of have to learn it yourself, because in some respects, scar tissue is important. If you don't fuck things up and doubt yourself and make mistakes, you haven't really learned how to do the thing.
I'm a huge advocate of, you need to walk the talk. You need to demonstrate what you sell by doing it for yourself first. I'm a huge fan of people who have first walked the talk and then started helping people achieve the same results, because for me, those are the best mentors. They've been in your shoes. They know. And they are a few steps ahead of you, right? That's the whole point of a coach or consultant. It's like
the one thing I wish
they know.
Sorry, I just interrupt for a second.
Go for it.
The doing and the teaching are very different skill sets.
100%.
And so if you can have done things really well and be awful at helping other people achieve the same results.
Yeah.
And conversely, you can have run things in a very modest fashion, but be fantastic at teaching. So you really do need to find somebody as a mentor. Being having good pedagogy is super important, right? It's way better to work with somebody who is a better teacher than they were a performer. Because if you look at Jamie Dimon, CEO of Morgan Stanley, he probably was not the best derivatives trader ever, and he was probably not the best wealth advisor ever, but he's a really freaking great CEO. So somebody does not have to be truly expert at everything in order to help you grow your expertise. But just because someone has been an expert at something does not mean that they are going to be able to help you. Because I'll tell you a really quick story. When I was my first job out of college, when I was a high school teacher, I was an English teacher, taught literature. It always made sense to me. It was fantastic. Loved it. But I taught at a small private school, and the middle school algebra teacher went on maternity leave. They couldn't find a substitute. So guess what? The new guy who teaches English became the substitute algebra teacher for 7th and 8th graders. And that's not my jam at all. But I was a better algebra teacher, I think, than an English teacher, because I had tons of passion for teaching literature and tons of insight, but it always made sense to me. Algebra, on the other hand, didn't always make sense to me. And so I had to be much more focused and make zero assumptions about what the students knew before I could help them. Whereas in literature, since it all made sense to me, I didn't really think that you need to cover the basics. So I do think that having the opportunity to look at something with the eyes of a beginner really, really helps somebody to be a more effective mentor.
I like that. For anybody thinking that if you're a great player, you can be a great teacher, have a chat with Michael Jordan. Well, you probably won't be able to have a chat with Michael Jordan, but look at Michael Jordan's career as a coach and then club owner. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's the best player the NBA has ever seen. But when it comes to teaching and transmitting a skill and helping people walk the same path,
right,
it's not the same. It's not the same ball game, pun intended. So I like what you're doing, Tim. What's the way for you to market this? What has worked for you to attract, get the eyeballs, get people down your funnel so that you can help those beginners, agency owners, or like a little bit more advanced agency owners scale in the sense of actually unscaling? I liked one of your recent LinkedIn posts around this, that you actually need to start by unscaling, because we all want to automate everything with AI tools. But what actually matters is the results that you get for your clients, and how do you do that while solving your job. So I'm going to pause here because this is a way too long question. But how do you market all this?
Content.
Right.
I'm
elaborating.
So I post on LinkedIn frequently. And that's my primary channel. Mm-hmm. I don't do things that a lot of other coaches do. To tell you the truth, and this is clearly a failure of mine. I have never gotten, paid advertising to work effectively for my coaching business. Yeah, and I'll tell you I'll tell you why.
Yes.
It's because I am not looking for anybody who fits the profile. And the failure of advertising in some respects is because it is a frequency-based mechanism and it is a attention-grabbing mechanism. In order for your ads to be effective, they have to be something that gets in your face. And I have really discovered that the people that I have had the most success with are the people who think, oh, that makes sense. Not people who are thinking, oh, that's the answer. So very different. Someone who thinks like, oh, that resonates with me versus somebody who thinks, oh, this is the prepackaged solution that someone's going to hand to me and I will know what to do with it.
Tell me how you make this work on LinkedIn. Because, so I think you named it, right? At the end of the day, what we do with marketing is we just grab attention, trigger curiosity, and build trust. And once you've built that trust, you try to keep it. So ads is a direct response channel, right? Which is why a lot of B2B coaches and consultants, well, B2B coaches do, consultants a little bit less, because just transforming a Facebook ad, a 30 seconds video into a sales call and closing multiple six-figure deals out of this is tricky. That's typically not how it happens.
Yeah.
So how do you do content on LinkedIn to hook attention, trigger curiosity, build trust, but also get people to take the next steps, right? Because at the end of the day, you can get millions and millions of views, aka the vanity metrics, and not get anybody to raise their hands to say, hey, help me out here. So how do you go about LinkedIn content?
So there's a couple of ways. Number one, almost every bit of content that I create is made with the intention of providing value, of being helpful, and sharing something that I have seen, experienced, noticed, and also providing context. What does that mean? And to be honest, like there's not a formula there. That's just, it's mostly consistent. It's consistent approaches. The other thing that I really like to do, and this is something that can be super time consuming, but getting into like commenting on other people's posts on LinkedIn. And not just like great point or whatever. I mean, sometimes that's the right thing to say, but trying to create a discussion. And that helps you stand out, because not only do people get to understand what you say, but they also understand how you formulate a response, how you engage with people. And this is a big part of what I consider, what I call, one of the primary things that agencies really need to do is expose their vibes, vision, and values. Because the best clients are the ones who they're not trying to understand who you are, and they're not trying to vet you. What they're trying to do is understand if the connection is two-way rather than one-way, because anything that you read, any content that you read from somebody, you're creating a vaguely parasocial relationship, right? So you put out content, and people are like, oh, this guy seems smart, cool, and then when they talk to you, they're not necessarily asking you what you think about things, because you've already expressed that. They don't want to know, or they're not going to be shocked when you say particular things because they've read about them. And they're not going to be shocked about the things that you think are important because you've already posted about them. What they're really looking for is, does this connection really exist? Or is this person just good at marketing?
So, okay, so many golden nuggets of knowledge here. First of all, I think that if you're great at marketing but terrible at products, you will make money. You will just not make lots of money, and you will burn trust as you go. So it's great to be great at marketing, but you might as well just market a great product. Closing the parenthesis here. What I've learned about LinkedIn, because I know that's something that a lot of B2B coaches and consultants and agency owners are looking into, because there is 1 billion active users over there. The thing about LinkedIn is that it is a networking platform. So it is not really working the same way TikTok and Instagram will, in the sense of you need great content to begin with, but what you need on top of that is to network. The LinkedIn algorithm is literally encouraging you to go interact with other people's posts, leave a comment, not an AI comment, by the way, like the post, repost, and get those people to engage on yours as well, and you grow like this as a network. So whilst you post content, you mentioned that you were trying to start a conversation. Is that how you do it? By actively networking, commenting?
Now what's really funny is very, very few people come to me through LinkedIn. That's where they learn about me.
Okay.
And that's where they understand me. But I can tell you, probably only 1 or 2 people have ever DM'd me on LinkedIn and be like, let's talk. Mm-hmm. It's much more likely that they just set up a call. And I'll tell you that the 2 places that are generating calls for me at the moment are LinkedIn and ChatGPT.
Where do people come to you then? Where do people come to you from then?
They discover me and understand me on LinkedIn, and they come in, and when those people are super well qualified, the people who come to me from ChatGPT, honestly, are less qualified, because they have asked a question like, who are the best agency coaches? And I'm on enough lists that people reach out. But those folks, and I think this is really interesting. Those folks are to this point have been less close to buying than the folks on LinkedIn.
Information gathering stage, I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
Makes sense. So I find this interesting. So LinkedIn is your unique content platform.
The other, I have a newsletter.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the agency inner circle you see there in my background, and I'm shameless plug, www.agencyinnercircle.com. Yeah. Subscribe. Comes out twice a week. I write it myself. There's no AI. It's funny. Sometimes I work really hard on it, and lots and lots of people show up because of my newsletter.
So that's fantastic, and I think that's the missing piece that I wanted to get out of your team, because we looked into you, obviously, so I knew that. But so for the B2B coaches and consultants listening to us, there is marketing on one side, so grabbing attention, triggering curiosity, building trust. But then there is the nurturing part, which is actually providing value that either will get people to take a little action and get results, so that they are reinforced the fact that you provide value and you're an expert in that space, because you've literally given them an advice for free that they can implement.
Yeah.
And or they'll be like, okay, clearly this is the way to go. I'm going to talk to that person to see if they can do it for me instead of me having to do it. And so that nurturing piece is so important. And I think many people think about newsletter in the sense of like, oh yeah, I have a list, I send them an email every week. But it's really about how much value can you provide in that, 1, 2, 3 email per week that you send to your list, that you nurture, that you sequence based on open rate, reply rates, click-through rates, and really building something that gets you people through the door at the end of the day.
Right. Now, something that I don't do, I subscribe to lots of other coaches' emails,
Okay.
and they have much more sophisticated nurturing solutions.
Okay.
And they email every day, but for the most part,
Some of them do.
They're not providing me any value. What they're doing is wrapping a promotion inside of something. They're all promotional emails masquerading as information. Now, in my newsletter, it's information and stories that might have a promotion attached to it, but not always. I mean, I always stick in ads because like somebody's going to pay for Beehive, but to tell you the truth, I'm not super promotional because I just wrote about this in my last week. If you're doing promotions and sales and all that sort of stuff, all you're doing is like you're trying to accelerate something. You're trying to pull a decision forward. And I have found that decisions that are made because of the desire for a discount or because of some sort of scarcity.
Yeah.
Those are not often great in my experience for my customers in the way that I work. They are often not great fits because there's something about the idea of a discount that creates a transactional metaphor in the client's mind. So like, oh, I've taken advantage of this. I'm going to get something more or faster or different. And so, and this really is a significant concept that I have, this idea of unscaling. It is better to do a few things amazingly well than all things reasonably well.
This is so good. In a world where anybody can pull up ChatGPT and ask a question and have, in 99% of the cases, a clear, properly laid out explanation with next steps and how to do it, we cannot satisfy ourselves with good or average at everything. We need to be great at a few things. I like that a lot, Tim. So given that, and so there are so many things to say. I like the point around the coach as well. Now, I guess it's all a numbers game, right? At the end of the day, I'm subscribed to a few newsletters of agencies coaches, actually, interestingly enough, Tim. And yeah, I know I have one in mind right now that is literally sending an email every day. But there is a kind of like email fatigue, like I'm opening 1 in 10 maybe now, and it's not providing me the value that I would need, I think. So it's always a balance, but I guess that they have a large list, which means even if they get a lower percentage of people to reply and take action, maybe the math does add up for them. I don't know. So it's a numbers
right. And these people are all smart and they're working their business in the best way for them. Absolutely.
Amen. 100%. So tell me a bit more about your sales motion, Tim. How do you get people from, okay, you've created awareness and trust on LinkedIn. You've nurtured them, or they found out about you from ChatGPT.
Yeah.
You've nurtured them via email for weeks, months, years. This is also another dimension, by the way, guys. It does take time to gain someone's trust and to get people to take action. So they've gone down the funnel. What does it look like afterwards? They book a call with you. How do you go from awareness, like eyeballs, to SOW, letter of engagement?
Yeah, so it all depends on the scale. So I have some programs that are not really coaching; they're more consulting, and those are things like I call it Demand OS, where we help people figure out what their vibes, vision, and values are. And then we sort of deconstruct that and turn it into visibility. And that's sort of a team-based, where I'm walking them through a series of steps so that they can take action on their own. And then there's my group coaching, which is for smaller folks, for folks who are probably in the under 70 or under $50,000 a month. So on the group coaching calls, it's a half-hour call. I diagnose, provide value, give a short pitch, and I never ask anybody to make a decision on the first discussion ever. I used to do that, and again, it could be right for some folks, but what I'm offering isn't transactional. And so if the only time they're going to close is that first call, and they're making a decision under duress in some respects, in front of my very persuasive, very handsome face, that's not how I want it to work. I want them to choose to work with me because that's their best option, not because I had the right thing to say to get them to say yes. And that's a very personal decision. That's not right for everybody, but for me, I found that decisions that are made with some space are better than ones that are made in the moment. That's the business version of what I tell my kids when they go off to college. Like, nobody's ever made a good decision after midnight. And it's true. Like, and very rarely have people ever made a good decision inside of a one call close.
So interesting. By the way,
I'm open to discuss this. Like, I'm just telling you, like,
no, but that's good.
Right for me. Yeah.
No, but the question is, like, how do you do it? And clearly, I mean, you're being successful at it. You've been doing this for 7 years now, almost 8 now. So the reason I'm saying this is I like your approach. I like it a lot. And I think we live in a trust recession world. So trying to push people into making a decision, in my opinion, is not the way forward. That being said, when someone consumes your content for years, engages with you, reads almost every email, implements some of the advice that you give, gets some results from it, before they ever talk to you, before they ever get into a call with you, when they get into that first discovery call, because this is what happens for a lot of people, like, they get into a call only after consumed dozens, if not hundreds of hours of content. When they get into that call, they are already sold. It's just like about the logistics of it. And then it's like, okay, how do we make this work? In which case, in my opinion, it does make sense to potentially get the decision in one of those calls.
So if people are ready to close, I will ask them if that's what I intuit from them. I will ask them if they're ready to make a decision.
Agreed. I like this. Actually, you know what? I like this question a lot. Are you ready to make a decision? That's really good.
Yeah, it gives the other person permission to say no, and it gives them permission to say yes.
Yeah.
And in most sales thinking, all you're trying to do is get somebody to say yes. And if they say yes enough, when you throw the price in front of them, they're going to say yes again. Right? That's sort of the underlying assumption. Whereas I think it's really important to give people the opportunity to bail if they are not on board or if they're not ready. And if they're not ready and they come back, the discussion turns into, cool, why aren't you ready? Like, what's in the way? Is it that you don't understand, you don't trust, you don't have the money, there's chaos other places? Like let's just, we might not be able to solve it. If you have no money, it's very hard to pay me. And as I mentioned before, I have 5 kids. So I need to get paid, man. Like they are not cheap. Whew.
I hear you. As an agency owner myself, I do hear you.
Yeah.
So once you've built that trust, once you've had that conversation, once you start working with someone, Tim, how do you retain your clients? Because I guess for B2B coaches and agency coaches, that's the crux, right? Because at the end of the day, information is, once people have information, they implement it, they've learned it, it's done. How do you retain? How do you keep people engaged? How do you keep on providing value on a month-to-month, year-to-year basis once you've started working with a new agency?
Yeah. So in group coaching, what I have found is there's like 2 serious inflection points. There's somewhere you've been part of group coaching for 90 days. And then at that point, like you suddenly understand more stuff, and you're thinking, okay, well, great, there's nothing else to do. So what I do at that point is I often ask people, okay, what are, like we've just solved the first level of problems. Let's look ahead and see what other problems are happening that are going to come your way, because problems are unavoidable. You just don't know what shape they're going to take. And if you avoid one problem, you've just opened yourself up for another one. But that's why you're the CEO. Like your job is to solve problems. So understanding that there's this sort of mastery that happens after about 3 months, and people might want to leave then. And if they do, if they feel like they need time to go out on their own, we have a really simple conversation. Like, cool, I'll pause your subscription, and I'm going to check in 30 days. And I know where you are right now. I've got your numbers. I understand, what's happening. And in 30 days, we'll check in again. And if your numbers are better and you're happy, then awesome. And if they're not, then let's figure out what the next set of problems are. And then in more sort of in bigger programs, it really is. And we build this right into the contract. We have they're usually 6-month contracts. So there's 2 months of discovery and initial implementation. There's a month of optimization, and then there's a couple of months of redirection, coaching, all that sort of stuff. And at each one of those points, they can cancel the contract. They can end the contract right then. At those 3 inflection points. But then what happens is at the end, they have largely become used to this new normal. I've taught them things, they've got new structures, they've got new processes, they've seen results. And so then they want to know what's next. Yeah. And at that point, it's really, it's just a matter of like saying, okay, let's figure out what's next for you. And what I really, really like about this is that, I do have to bring it up, when the contract's ending or when we get to a particular inflection point. I do say, like, we agreed that, at this point you could bail. And for the most part, people are like, no, please, no. But when we get to the next thing, this actually opens up a much deeper relationship, because we've solved that top level of problems. And now we're going to get to the good stuff that is truly transformative. Like they've had a transformation in my demand OS or sales OS piece of like their demand creation is way better or their sales process is way better. But then we get down into the, oh man, now that we've got these things that I thought were the problem figured out, now I realize like shit, I don't know how to be a CEO, or I don't like these people on my team, or like we've had these people working for us for a really long time, but like I don't know if they're in the right seat. And then when we get to that point where people are thinking, oh, now that we've solved our stuffy nose, like we don't have a stuffy nose anymore, but I get to think like, are they really healthy? And it's at that point when you take away the most obvious symptoms that people really become open to large scale structural changes that are truly transformative. And that could, those things can be as simple as, they can be, getting rid of or adding services. It could be, leaving a market. It could be entering a new market. Or it could be like, oh, we are totally the wrong shape for what we are really trying to do. And ideally, in that, if you're in group coaching, that first 90 days or in the larger things at the end of 6 months, like you are now way more clear about where you're trying to go and what you actually want to accomplish. Because you've taken away all of that fear that I don't know what to do, or that symptom that bothers me that I can't think around.
Where would you say your biggest challenge is right now, Tim? In the sense of what's your current what the fuck? What's your once I, crack that nut, I'm gonna be able to take my business to the next level?
Yeah, there's two. There's two. Number one, and this is I'm actually sort of like healing myself in some ways. I'm currently building a tool that reviews sales calls against a bunch of different metrics, and I've been reviewing my own sales calls, and I have found that I get too excited about helping. And so I go into like diagnosis and problem solving mode right away because that's what I love to do. And, as I was just looking this morning after my last 5 sales calls, I didn't get to the pricing and impact until, way later in the call. And that's because, like with 5 minutes left, and that's because I got too excited. So number one is I need to rework through my structure. And then the other thing that I need to do, and this was a conscious choice a couple of years ago. I had a team that a full-time team. And then I got rid of most of them. They're all hanging around still, but they're all part-time and it wasn't necessarily because of business conditions, but it was much more about my management fatigue. Like I got tired of managing people. I've been doing it for a long time, since I think my first management position was in 1993. Yeah, I'm really fucking old. And so I stopped. So I intentionally gave myself a break there, but now there's more stuff that I want to do. There's things that I'm really excited about, which, by the way, the things that I'm really excited about are using lots of AI tools to give you the diagnosis, or to remind you of what your diagnosis is, and to help guide you into what the the thing that you really need to be working on is. And then after that, that becomes a human discussion rather than an AI discussion, because AI is awesome at so many stuff, at so many things, but it's not really awesome at saying like, oh shit, yeah, like I understand, like you're a little bit afraid of doing this, you've had a bad experience doing that, and the market is all fucked. So like we gotta remix this in a different way. And AI is really good at diagnosing what problems are, not so awesome at defining what the best solution for you is. So what I'm really looking forward to doing is building pieces that sort of help people diagnose themselves. And if they can diagnose themselves and solve it on their own, yes, that's awesome. Like that's cool. But that sets the stage for me to immediately have the kinds of discussions that I want to have, which are, okay, you're not focused on the things that are failing. Now you can think about the things that you truly want to be successful at. And by the way, everybody thinks it's revenue or profits. Rarely is it that.
Is it then?
Most people want to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
They want to feel good about what they do in their job. They want to enjoy the people they work with. They want to have a true sense of autonomy. And by the way, if you are a revenue profit motivated person and that's your metric, you have zero freedom. Because those metrics demand constant attention. And so if they are the only things that you care about, you have ceded your autonomy to a profit and loss statement. And very, very few people want to do that. Most people want the opportunity to be creative, to expand, to contract, to adjust, to change. They want to be free to experience the things that they want to experience. And if your only success metric is a profit and loss statement, you don't have any autonomy.
Amen to that. Tim, ladies and gentlemen. Tim, if people want to find out more about you, see what you do, where should they go?
TimKilroy.com, Tim Kilroy on LinkedIn, www.agencyinnercircle.com. I'm not hard to find.
Well, to make sure that you aren't, we'll put all the links in the description. And I can say one thing for sure is that you gained at least one new connection on LinkedIn out of this interview. Me.
Yes.
I just added you. And King, thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders.
Thank you so much. It's been great.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time. How was that?